I'll be honest, out of every single rabbit-styled animatronic character in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, Plushtrap's kinda just there. Every time I hear someone talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 4 specifically, it's always about its gameplay, immersive environment, or downright confusing lore, but never about the game's, well, small gremlin child. So today I wanted to dive deep into every single one of Plushtrap's appearances in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, yes, including the books, and try to pinpoint Plushtrap's true purpose, if there even is any. Before the release of the fourth game, on July 9th of 2015, ScottGames.com featured a new teaser for the game. This one states that terrible things come in small packages, which is a play on good things come in small packages, and also gave us a sneak peek at this new character. This character, which again seemingly resembled Springtrap's design, was seated near a small window, and when brightened up, gives us a closer look at 4 door frames. Pretty interesting, but that's not all. Digging into the internal source code of ScottGames.com, we could find strange 3-letter phrases. Fans soon discovered, with the use of a Caesar cipher, that these phrases were actually a name, that being Plushtrap. Making his debut in the 4th entry of the Five Nights at Freddy's series, Plushtrap is a very small, plush-like animatronic of Springtrap from FNAF 3, albeit with a lot less damage. Like Springtrap, he's colored with a brownish-green color, with the addition of a brown belly, lack of any buttons or bow ties, black dotted eyes, 3 jointed ears, this being the first we'd seen in the series so far, and just looks generally a lot cleaner than his counterpart. One thing that immediately sticks out is Plushtrap's lack of resemblance to the other plushies we see in the series, as he's more of an animatronic doll of sorts. It's also important to note that out of every other animatronic classified in FNAF 4, excluding the Jackos, Plushtrap is not given any nightmare prefix to his name. Plushtrap's main mechanic in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 almost operates as a minigame between nights. After completing the first night of the game, and the minigame after, players will be thrusted into Fun with Plushtrap. This game mode has players continuously flash their light at Plushtrap to stop him from getting to you, with the goal being to catch him on the visible X seen on the floor. Completing this mode relies on how good the player's headset is, with the main focus being his footsteps, and how much time the player has, which gets progressively smaller after about every night. If the player is successful in their endeavors, they're granted a head start of 2 hours to the next night, starting at 2 AM instead of the regular 12 AM night. And if not, well, you know. Outside of his respective game mode, Plushtrap is even sort of seen in the post-night minigames featured in FNAF 4. This green-shirted child, no, not that one, or that one, seen in the Night 3 minigame describes their Spring Bonnie plush toy to the player, specifically saying that his dad refers to it as a finger trap due to its tendency to pinch. Adventure Plushtrap is the FNAF World counterpart to Plushtrap. As most characters in FNAF World are, the adventure variants are simply cuter versions of characters from up to the FNAF 4 Halloween DLC. Adventure Plushtrap, in the game itself, is classed more so as an offensive character, with his attacks being Toxic Bite, Bad Pizza, and Sludge. Endo Plush is probably the strangest addition to FNAF World's main roster, as they're the only character that literally isn't seen or referenced somewhere in any of the previous games or in any future titles. Its inclusion seems to simply be because of character quota, whatever that means. And although both of their eye colors are different, it seems to be strongly implied that Endo Plush is Adventure Plushtrap's literal endoskeleton, due to its name and small rabbit ear extensions. While Plushtrap doesn't make another appearance in the games until Ultimate Custom Night, his room, along with the main bedroom, are featured in the 1983 Keypad Easter egg and Sister Location's private room, also notably not being seated in his chair. His room is also barely seen during Night 2's Breaker Room section, along with some other notable locations from FNAF 4. One strange addition here is the placement of these squares in Plushtrap's room. We can see exactly 5 indications of animatronics, at least going off the rest of the map. Does that mean we're going against 5 Plushtraps in this section of the game? Just something to think about. In Ultimate Custom Night, Plushtrap can only be activated by Dee Dee, being one of the 6 secret characters alongside Nightmare Chica, Bonnet, Lulbit, the Mini-Renas, and Shadow Bonnie, or RXQ. He appears at Funtime Foxy's stage on Cam 6, where you'll see his iconic white chair from FNAF 4. If Plushtrap is ever seen on this chair, watching him for a few seconds will terrify him so much he forgets to abide by the laws of physics and flies away. Glad to see Scott hadn't forgotten about Bonnie's special ability. In FNAF's official VR port, Help Wanted, Plushtrap does make an appearance in his very own level, being the first one in the Darkroom section in the hub. Named again Fun with Plushtrap, this level is practically identical to its FNAF 4 iteration. The hard mode version of Fun with Plushtrap is slightly different, in that the player is much smaller, and there are a few more items scattered around the room. His other appearances in this game come with visiting his same room in the Pizza Party level, partially in Ennard's hard mode level, and as a random occurrence when opening a prize. You even get an achievement too. How nice. Concerning FNAF AR Special Delivery, Plushtrap actually is a pretty cool addition to this game. Before the release of the game, Plushtrap was prominent in many of the teasers that Illumix put out to advertise their mobile game, even being included in the game's launch trailer. However, for almost an entire year, he was strangely not included in any shape or form, until the release of FNAF AR's first Halloween update. With this update, players could finally face up against Plushtrap, which also included Illumix's first fully AR environment. When facing Plushtrap directly, players must properly gauge the two generators on their left and right, to get the meter behind them to a green output. When Plushtrap gets close enough to the small puddle facing the player, they must quickly zap and defeat him. When getting a closer look at this design for Plushtrap, you may start to see stark differences between his model in previous titles. In FNAF AR, Plushtrap is given this strange quilted stitch look to his green patchy skin, and a set of white pupils instead of his previous dotted black pupils. I actually quite like this new look for him, making him resemble more of an actual plush than just a smaller animatronic. His chair in game also looks quite different, trading his white one for a lighter brown, more wooden design. He also got two official, severely overpriced skins, being the Winter Wonderland event's Frost Plushtrap and Scream Punk's event's Piranha Plushtrap. Both of these skins have very distinct designs, and in my opinion, look pretty sick in their own individual environments. But without a doubt, the biggest piece of information regarding Plushtrap is in the Fazbear Frights story Out of Stock. To quickly, and I mean quickly, summarize the events of the short story, an always down on his luck kid named Oscar manages to get away with stealing the hottest new toy, the Plushtrap Chaser. However, the one he steals is defective, and mentioned to have disturbingly realistic human-like eyes and teeth. When a sudden power outage affects Oscar's entire neighborhood, his Plushtrap toy tries to attack him and his friends. The only way to slow this rabbit's feral attacks is by shining a light on him, keeping it stationary. After narrowly escaping Plushtrap's attacks, all three boys venture outside and towards a set of train tracks, where Oscar, narrowly dodging the train in time, finally destroys the defective Plushtrap Chaser at the end of the story. From how it's described in the book, the Plushtrap Chasers do have a few small deviations to the design of FNAF 4's Plushtrap, specifically mentioning charging ports near their jaws, whiskers on their snout, and sharp canine-like teeth. However, on the graphic novel's cover and other depictions of this same defective toy, this Plushtrap is given, well, a variety of different designs, with some even depicting Plushtrap from the games. But don't get me wrong, some do look very different, like how he's drawn inside the graphic novel, which, while technically resembling the details given in the book, wasn't exactly how I pictured him personally. Oscar's defective Plushtrap Chaser has all of these same features, but has realistic looking yellow human teeth, green eyes, and the ability to mimic different voices. We also learn that the Plushtrap Chasers are around 3 feet tall and cost exactly $79.99. And lastly, Security Breach, which yes, technically does feature Plushtrap. Well, somewhat, with the inclusion of various arcade cabinets around the Pizzaplex. I know, super exciting. Specifically on both the Plushtrap Chaser arcade cabinet and Fazbear's Frozen Land pinball machine. As many of the different arcade cabinets around the entirety of the Pizzaplex feature many of the characters from the Fazbear Frights book series, it's no surprise that there would be one featuring the defective Plushtrap Chaser from Out of Stock. The design on the cabinet has a new look at this character as well, with more stitching and visible spots or decay seen on his green fur. Interestingly, this arcade machine says "Run" written in red almost everywhere on the cabinet itself, and also is one of the only arcade cabinets to be turned on during the Music Man chase sequence in the arcade. I find this, by itself, especially strange. It's literally the only one here that glows with this weird purple aura on its display. The other pinball machine, named Fazbear's Frozen Land, features a few of FNAF AR's Frosty characters, being Frostbear, Frostbite BB, and Frost Plushtrap. Based on essentially every appearance of Plushtrap in the series, it's fairly obvious to assume that he comes from some sort of licensed toy product distributed at, well, at the very least, Fredbear's Family Diner, due to the FNAF 4 minigame. This likely started due to the popularity of the Spring Bonnie character, and probably due to William Afton's constant affection toward the yellow rabbit in of itself. I'd even go so far to say that specifically the Plushtrap Chasers, mentioned in Out of Stock, are in fact a real line of merchandise sold at Fazbear Entertainment locations and other toy stores, just like the Emporium from the story. This makes it pretty easy to say that the Plushtrap we see in the games is simply from the Plushtrap Chasers line of merch, with a little tampering involving William Afton. This also ties back into Plushtrap's sister location appearance, or lack thereof. If we know why he exists in the games, then what's the reason behind his appearance in FNAF 4 specifically? You know, besides making nights a bit shorter. Well, from what we know from the Tales from the Pizzaplex story, Didophobia, it's explicitly described that the FNAF 4 bedroom and the nightmare animatronics that pursue our player are the result of hallucinogenic gas to test the fear response in children. However, in the story itself, Plushtrap, or the room he resides in, are strangely never mentioned, even though we do know that it exists somewhat due to the screens in the private room and how the sister location bunker connects to the different sections seen in FNAF 4. In my personal opinion, I think Plushtrap as we see him in FNAF 4 does in fact exist, but is accentuated as a result of the hallucinogenic gas, just like with what we see with the nightmares. It's mentioned in the Fazbear Frights story that these same Plushtrap chasers can only move when not in direct line of sight with a bright light like a flashlight. This matches up with what we see in FNAF 4 to a T, meaning that most likely William Afton is using these Plushtrap chasers to monitor the fear response with a mix of hallucinogenic gas and maybe some sort of tampering. Something else that's interesting is that there's likely 5 different Plushtraps operating here, due to the 5 different squares seen on sister locations labeled map. Every single square here defines a certain animatronic, whether it's Fredbear and Spring Bonnie on the stage, Nightmare Foxy in the closet, or Funtime Freddy in the breaker room. This could mean that every time we see him dive into a different door frame, he's quickly switching with a new Plushtrap, kind of like a relay race. So all in all, I think there's a few points we can take away from Plushtrap's appearances in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, as little as there may be. He's definitely some sort of literal product sold at the different pizzerias. He's likely either mixed with some hallucinogenic gas or tampered with in FNAF 4 at the very least, and does actually exist, unlike the other nightmare animatronics. While he's not essential to any hidden stories or missing lore, I still love to go over characters that have less importance in the overall plot of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's kind of why I've been doing these videos recently, just looking over some of the most underrated characters and giving more information about their appearances. And it seemed fitting too, with FNAF AR shutting down soon and how it brought Plushtrap back in the spotlight for a while. Get it? Spotlight? Like the flashlight. Or, you know, kind of like when he got ran over by a train.